Hi, you're listening to Mindset, spelled with AI, a weekly or bi-weekly tech podcast that is shaping what you know and think about AI. My name is David. I'm a tech journalist and entrepreneur, and here with me is Philip, an AI executive. Hi, Philip.
Hey, David. Good to see you. What are we going to talk today about?
I have a big question for you.
Oh, you do?
Yes, I do. How is Microsoft really doing in AI?
Next question, please.
No, so we had a discussion about this company. Let me give you my frame of reference, how I think about it. So 2 years ago, when the whole AI craze started, right? Microsoft has already had a deal with OpenAI.
Yep.
OpenAI has been the front runner, and at the time, I thought, okay, here we have these two guys, like one team, right? Like going forward, and then on the other side, we have other big tech companies such as Apple, such as Google, who are, or at least I thought, well positioned to be the winners. Google, on one hand, because it had all the productivity software and apps that people were using. They had big cloud. They were the front runners when it came to AI research with DeepMind and Google Brain and all of these things. They came up with transformers, etc. And I thought, billions of people are using their products. They have so much data. They can, if they will connect it well, they're going to win. Plus, they also started, having their hardware kind of really well made.
Yep.
The smartphones. So they were one. Apple, on the other hand, was the one that, okay, they have really good vertical integration. They are the company that has so much money.
Yep.
They can buy any AI unit. They must have something under the hood they're developing. Now we know. And so, okay, now go 2 years in the future, so today, and OpenAI and Microsoft have a new deal. They're split. Microsoft is developing its own AI. OpenAI has still maintained their leadership, although it's we already talked about it in one of the previous episodes, that what you think about OpenAI. And then you have Google, who kind of like was behind a little bit, especially end of 2023, 2024, very bumpy years for Google when it came to AI. 2025, suddenly Google gets their, how they say, shit together, and they're doing well. And in my mind, Microsoft should have been the other big player, even starting from the defense. They have billions of users. They are in desktops. We have Windows. They have the productivity apps. They have Azure. They're doing their own research.
Yep.
But somehow they couldn't pull off the same thing that Google did.
Yes.
And this is my question then, like what happened there?
All right. Well, I do see a frame of reference. And I have to say that I kind of understand the story, because one would expect that Microsoft has survived also like downfall when it comes to iPhone, when they almost kind of lost the train with operating systems for mobile. Then they were having issue with Internet Explorers and browser again when they lost the game to, when they had Bing, which lost the game to Google again. So they had been beaten by the other players, mostly Google very often, the case, quite often. So I think that this impression that Microsoft should be a strong AI player is stemming solely and mainly from the partnership with OpenAI. Okay, it is what it is. We're going to come to that in a while. But in order to see if the partnership of the OpenAI was helpful or not, I think we should discuss a little bit the phase before the GPT launch, right? So let me walk you back a little bit when Microsoft times before the ChatGPT moment. So we're talking, 2010 to 2000, let's say 18, 19, 20, when 2022 was the launch of ChatGPT 3.5. Now, Microsoft was doing some research. It was having a strong ResNet, which was a computer vision network. It was also trying to build their own models. They also built, they were very first one to build a set of cognitive models, which were used for kind of recognition, speech, transcription, and so. So they were trying to get the right direction. But the problem was that they were all building it on the previous algorithms or previous state of technology. So yes, they were trying to build new models. They were trying to develop, but let me remind you, like this is 2016, 17. That's the time where Google already had a transformers, had AlphaFold, protein generation. GPT 1 and 2 were actually 2017 and 18, if I remember correctly. 20 was GPT-3, and only 2022 was GPT 3.5. So the things were already in the making, and it was not visible how the other companies are more ahead because the products were still not visible. But the gap to the AI progressive levels was already there. So already in the making. So they didn't have any major model, which was pre-GPT, which would be super famous. And they were struggling. Like they were trying to bring it up. And then came the GPT moment, right? And now let's discuss the OpenAI partnership. Because funny enough, and I still can't wrap my head around this, why this happened, how on earth they become the major partner of OpenAI for technology. Because Azure was one of the key frameworks on which the GPT-3 and 3.5 have been actually trained. So it's mind-blowing for me because it was running on their own servers, right? I mean, I don't say that they need to like sneak peek into it, but they were seeing that it's like bubbling, it's getting bigger and bigger, and they just let it go. They didn't really jump on it. They didn't really kind of raise the alarm like, look, OpenAI is doing like a major progress, model for model. They're running on our servers. It's getting more and more compute. Just the sheer fact of you have a customer who is able to spend so much more compute, they didn't even start to build a new compute. Because one of the biggest pundits of the bitter part of the relationship between the OpenAI and Microsoft is that they were not able to give them enough capacity. This is the main reason why the things got a little bit sour between Sam Altman and Satya Nadella. Because I mean, hey, the things are they can't get enough compute to run the training first place, right?
We all remember tweets from Sam Altman when after launching any new feature that was successful, they said, oh, you have to bear with us because the server capacity, we just are hitting the ceiling.
Yes. So here it is. So we fast forward to November 2022, which we have like a 3 years anniversary of soon, and ChatGPT goes out. And Microsoft, as it is running on its own servers, at least secured a kind of a deal like, okay, well, if it's running on our servers, it's there anyway. So it would be so stupid not to offer it because we are the natural place. We are the first place where this is running, so make sure that we have access to it. And that was part of the deal. This was smart for Microsoft. And I have to say, this is probably going to maybe save their ass for the remaining time when we're going to come back to the end of a story with OpenAI, with the most recent development. But after that, nothing really happens. So comes to 2023, and they are proclaiming like, hey, you can use ChatGPT on our servers, you can be the customers to use it and so on. But no really major progress, right? And the first progress that they got is a recall function. Do you recall a recall function?
Yes, I do. I recall that they never recalled it. Actually, no, they never launched it because there was a major bug that was discovered.
Yeah, so just for the benefit of the audience. So what Microsoft did, they realized that they are actually sitting on a very large pile of the information in the individual devices. And what they wanted to do in the first step, they wanted to unlock the search, like an AI search in the documents on your own local computer. But the way they wanted to do it was pretty creepy because they thought that they're going to record what you're doing and infer from that what might be relevant for you, rather than trying to do a proper rag, but it was still like 2023 and 24 when they came with. By the way, they launched the feature secretly under a different name later, which is not that known. So it does exist in a bit different setup, but it was a big disaster. It was a big clash. A lot of people push back because it looks pretty creepy. Like, why should the operating system spy on me what I am doing, and like where exactly is it stored, and does it leave my computer to calculate what's going on, and so on and so on. So that's the thing. And the only thing which I kind of half admired or half respected from Microsoft in this interim period was their play with hardware. So they came with this idea of like AI PCs, right? It was a bit surprising to me. I was wondering because if, I don't know, HP or Asus or Acer or Lenovo came with this idea, I would fully understand, because for them, like giving user a good reason to buy a new hardware is what is making their future important. Not even Apple with their Macs was playing this card so hard as Microsoft was with the, you're going to have a completely new PC machines, which are actually an AI PCs or AI ready PCs.
Branded Copilot Plus PC.
Yes. Well, Copilot is another big thing which we can't avoid, like talking about Microsoft and AI. For some reason, this became like an umbrella term for anything which is AI related in Microsoft. And I have to say, David, that in retrospect, I think this was one of the biggest mistakes. And this might surprise you because we never talk about it, but I was just thinking about it, getting ready for this episode, that now we are in 2024, like end of 2023, start 2024, where they started to push the Copilot as like a main thing. And with the idea that this is going to be helping you in the using of AI in the application which Microsoft is providing anyway. So either like link directly to the Windows operating system or link to the Microsoft 365, so all the Office products. Now, let's forget Microsoft for a while and let's talk about it in like general principles. You have an AI product. You are entering an agentic era where you expect that everything is going to be done by the autonomous agents, or that you really get the best of automation or AI value added when the machine is able to do it on itself. Why do you call it Copilot? Like, Copilot never does the things on itself. The name, like the very naming of it, like a Copilot, is fundamentally wrong. If you want to have an AI which is autonomous, you don't want to call it Copilot, because the Copilot, the co part of it, like outlines that you still expect somehow strongly the human to be part of the equation.
So, well, actually, it actually signals that there's someone else in the driver's seat.
Yes. So that is, I mean, I don't want to like play a hard game now on a naming conventions, but if you think about it, like if you are in a state of a mind that you are just about to release a major AI revolution of your products, both on a software and hardware side, why on earth would you call it Copilot? And I think this small thing is like a best description of how Microsoft got it totally wrong. They, from the very beginning, assumed that AI will be some component which is going to be docked into what they are doing anyway. And they just keep on rolling with the old things. The Windows will be the way that they were. The Microsoft Office will be the way they were. Just all of a sudden, AI Copilot will be part of an Excel, PowerPoint, or whatever you're using out of the office. So that's a strange thing to me.
Maybe you can call it like a short-term thinking, right? At the time, it really was the main idea for AI, and the big tech company especially wanted to communicate that no, AI is not going to, push you out of your job. It is going to help you. So in that sense, at that time and that period, Copilot made sense. Also, Microsoft acquired GitHub. GitHub had GitHub Copilot.
Yep.
Before Microsoft had its own Copilot.
Yep.
So they kind of liked the idea. I heard a couple of interviews with Satya Nadella, who was very happy with the branding of Copilot. So there you go.
Yes, I would disagree on this one with you. I think it's a major issue in a sense that if you really take a time to decompose the user base of Microsoft, so they obviously have a very strong enterprise leg, which is buying the server and is buying the office for its employees. Okay. But the decision maker here is the management, not the employees, right?
Absolutely.
I have experienced a situation where the company decided we're going to go away from Microsoft. We're going to embrace a Google Studio or Google Suite of the products. And all of a sudden, you were not using Excel, but you were using Google Sheets, right? So ultimately, the decision power is in management hands. So even though you have a lot of end users who might be scared about what the AI will do for them, the one who is paying the bills is the management. So the management doesn't want to really have a Copilot, most of them. They probably would like to have a full automation or as hard of the automation as possible and still doable. Now, in the individual spectrum, because Windows and Microsoft also has a lot of, let's say, casual users. So you have your home PC.
Yep.
Well, not probably in your family. I guess you're pretty Mac strong. So I'm not sure if the FBI would find a Windows computer in your household.
There's one.
Okay. So most of the families who are using their casual computers or students or whoever who don't go for the Mac, again, like, why would they not want something which is like giving them as much help as they want and they have a full control while they activate it? So I don't want to make a big fuss about it, but I think it's a strategically misunderstanding of what should AI do. And this has like been going on with Microsoft for ever since. Because, so let's just remind us of what really happened with the AI. So what they managed to do with AI besides the OpenAI. Okay, so the Copilot thing we put on a... So they started to build their own models. And this is another funny story, which you as a tech journalist know really well, is this AquaHire of Suleiman team, right? Where they basically grabbed a company which was working, took management out of it and let it die or let it like disappear. And the main reason for that is that they realized that they can't survive without their own models. And also, which is interesting, is that they are still running on Azure the old pre-GPT models for like optical recognition and sound. I mean, they did upgrades to that, to be fair, but it's still the old way. So they are also not that performant, to be honest. They are just coming out of the box. They are so easy to activate or switch on in Azure, but it's not a thing. And what is surprising to me the most is that also Azure itself, like we all know that given the size of the AI models, most of them you can't run on your local GPUs yet, right? We're going to get there slowly. We're kind of approaching that trend, but we're far away from that. So all the big models, you need to have a cloud provider for. So I would assume that Microsoft, having Azure, on which the GPT was built and trained, they should strongly push for it. They should be at their advantage to actually get it out. No. They didn't manage to even increase the share of Azure in the total cloud providers. They actually shrink their share from something like 8.99% to 7%, which is the most recent number. So where's the play? Where's the Microsoft strategy here? Like they have not really built their own models. They didn't take any extra benefit out of being a strong OpenAI partner. We're going to come in a while into what kind of models they managed to themselves. And they didn't even grow the Azure. As a kind of, hey, now you can run the things on our cloud platform and we're going to be better off. So I think they're really being like a black passenger of the AI era. They are trying to swim on the waves, but the waves usually kind of drown them. I don't think so that they have any sensible progress.
Okay, we skipped a couple of steps in the relationship between OpenAI and Microsoft. So just let's go back. Let's go back to that. So they struck a deal. They could use the servers. Well, that was the deal, right? Like It was not money based.
I think it was compute for access to the models deal.
Yes, exactly. So OpenAI got the compute.
Yep.
Microsoft got their hands on always the latest models from OpenAI as basically the first ones outside of OpenAI to get it. And that relationship evolved. The first, I would say, like major bump came when the board ousted Sam Altman in, what was it, 2020?
I think 2023.
2023, yes.
November?
Yes, November 2023.
Yes.
And that was, I think, that should have been the point where Microsoft would say, okay, this is probably, a sign.
Yes, and to some extent it was, because the Suleiman story comes shortly after that as a kind of counterplay. But not that many people know that this actually got them into more trouble than they expected, because after this crisis in OpenAI with Sam Altman and the board seats, all of a sudden regulators started to kind of zoom down on, okay, so you Microsoft, so what is it really kind of relationship that you're having here? Is it like friends with benefits or whatever is here? Because you seem to have some power about the development, but you're not officially a shareholder, but you have like access to the profit generated by the contract. So what it really is. And they had really a tough time in because they of course wanted to claim the seat in board after this, but they couldn't. And then the regulation in EU and UK had actually like cracked down on them, so had to step down from it as well. So funny enough, this ultimate moment where I think even Satya Nadella said that Sam Altman is kind of ready to work from their offices to start like brand new after he's been ousted from the OpenAI, at least in the dramatic weekend. That's what they said. They even say there's a rumor that even the computers were ready there. They bought even Macs for them, which is like amazing, because like think about it. Microsoft buying Mac computers for an OpenAI employees to come to work for Microsoft. But that's what happened. No, like funny stories aside. So yes, the development of the OpenAI relationship got to the point that all of a sudden, Microsoft was not on top of a game. All of a sudden, they got like standing in a way. The first crack, as I mentioned, was this compute. So they were not able to provide scale enough compute. I mean, in retrospect, who is able to give Sam Altman enough compute? Like his demand is so big that not even like large companies like NVIDIA can give him a. He's got to deal with AMD. He's got to deal with Oracle.
Everyone.
Yeah, everyone. So probably nobody can please Sam Altman's hunger for compute. So I don't think so. Microsoft standed a chance to like be there, but they also didn't really jump on building the compute themselves. And what is interesting, and that's a little bit like assessing how it might go into the future as well. So it's probably entering discussion a bit prematurely, but now Microsoft is also the only company which is not actually scaling compute even at this point of a time, where it is obvious that the demand for compute is going to go up. And that's pretty scary, because they are one of the few companies who commented that they will not actually build a craze of, they will be very, I think one of their VPs for infrastructure commented on a podcast that I heard that they are going to go, as a big technology podcast, I think they gonna grow sensibly. So they're gonna like think about which investment makes sense and which not. Compare it to like throw any money on like building data centers from anybody else. So Microsoft really is kind of in a strange setup. And just to complete the OpenAI history, not to run away again from it. So I don't know what's your most recent take, but to my best understanding, now they agreed that they will not stand in a way of this conversion of OpenAI from non-profit to for-profit organization, because they basically had a blocking opinion in their development. And it was causing OpenAI some financing problems, because SoftBank explicitly conditioned for the money to be put into like converting into something sensible. Like, we don't want to stack more money into this strange for non-profit organization, which nobody knows who owns which share of. So now, to my understanding, they finally got to agreement, and Microsoft is going to earn about like 28% stake in this for-profit organization, which probably is going to be the biggest one besides Sam Altman. I don't know how much Sam Altman will have himself in this story, but one of the strong owners is going to be Microsoft. They might be one of the biggest shareholders, OpenAI, which is, seeing the history, an amazing story to me.
No, it is definitely. I'm not sure if I read it correctly, but I saw a headline that Sam Altman is not getting any shares in
I
Open.
wouldn't believe so. I wouldn't believe so. I mean, not Sam Altman. Like, I can imagine a lot of tech CEOs from California, but I don't think so. Sam Altman goes out, because he even had like a stories where he said it's against the interest of the other shareholders for him not to have.
Yes,
because he's such a strong point.
That's right.
Yep. So just to kind of discuss where this might go, because obviously, like history short, Microsoft was not in a position to be strong AI player before ChatGPT moment. After the ChatGPT, they were like a major helper and a partner of an OpenAI, but the relationship got sour and sour. They were even like Suleiman shouting on OpenAI common meetings that they were not giving them enough interesting new progress and everything. So these were all of the stories. Now they're gonna split, and I have one important point I want to register at the end, but I just wanted to hear your point of view. So after hearing all this history of Microsoft, where would you bet this will go for Microsoft?
No, I would love to say like I'm hopeful because I'm using some of the Microsoft apps and products, and I would love them to be more integrated when it comes to AI. But from the very recent fall announcements that have been around, it seems like they are taking it slowly. Which again is in line with what you said. When it comes to scaling, they're taking it slowly. When it comes to integration, they're taking it slowly. When it comes to rollout of some of the features, they're taking it slowly. And everyone else who is kind of into it is not taking it slowly. It's like OpenAI is definitely not taking it slowly. Google is somewhat more measured, but at the same time, Google still like you don't have a month. There's not a major announcement either from Google, OpenAI, or Anthropic.
Yep.
And you also have now more and more information and updates coming in from China, right? On a monthly basis,
Yes.
right? Like we discussed this monthly
Yes.
In another podcast that we do together. And like there's development.
Yep.
But very rarely do you hear about Microsoft.
Okay, so not to make it this doom and gloom for Microsoft, I would like to register 3 points, 2 of them positive, 1 of them somewhat negative. So first thing, when you look at what Microsoft has been doing lately, they started to build their own line of AI models, which is called Phi or Phi, whatever kind of I want to pronounce it. PHI is the spelling. And these models are a small language models. And it's an interesting bet because basically they probably throw a towel that it will not generate a proper large language model themselves. And quite honestly, it will be probably too late to the game anyway because you have at least 4 or 5 other strong alternatives. So unless they're going to buy somebody like Mistral, they probably never have a strong model themselves. Neither Apple will, but that's the same story for same reasons. The second thing which they did is on an NX platform, which is supporting running a smaller version of the large models or quantization of the models. And now this is a big thing, because this is basically democratizing the large models into usage on edge devices. And I only wish they had the phones because it would be so much better to run on the phones. They don't. They only have computers. But still, maybe this, along with the focus on hardware, might help them some extra points. But then comes one more thing, which is a shocking thing to me now. You mentioned that somewhat silently in our discussion as well. So they have GitHub. And that is just, I just can't wrap my hand around it. Because we know that even recent moves from OpenAI are admitting that the coding use case is one of the strongest use cases that you can think of. And I think that Anthropic Claude is doing extremely well, especially because they focused on trying to have a very strong use case on coding. Now, how on earth you're owner of a GitHub? Like you have access to all the repositories, public ones, okay, private ones you shouldn't, but the public ones, and you just don't do anything about it for your benefit. That's almost like a crime act to me against your own company, because like you are sitting on a large pile of data and you see the other players probably silently training their models on it and you don't take any benefit of it.
But
That's a
isn't
big
it
question mark for me.
isn't it like they were very early on coding even before Anthropic with GitHub Copilot?
That's interesting twist, because yes, in a sense they were, but they were doing it a little bit the Microsoft way. So I think this is a good analogy for me to explain, because yes, they, for instance, had like optical recognition or like transcribing models before, but they were not state of art, and they were doing a relatively short context window. And that's the same thing. So if you remember, the way that GitHub Copilot started was to like a little bit like a key prediction or a next phrase prediction.
Yes.
Of what you're likely to say, but not to write the whole function or the whole class or the whole application. And they stopped there. And that's the mystery to me, because they don't have, to the point, any model which would be strong enough to do the coding. And that's just one of the strategic misses. So even if you look at the way that, I mean, it's probably not the best KPI to measure it, but if you look at the development of a share price, which is the objective value of the company, or total market cap of the company, ever since ChatGPT moment, I look it up before hopping on this podcast, up to the moment that we talk now, Microsoft had an increase of 56% in the value of a company ever since ChatGPT moment. Now, that sounds pretty amazing given the fact it's just 2 years back. It's not too bad, and their shareholders probably are kind of happy. Unless you learned that Google had almost 80% and Meta had like multiple, that's probably like plus 600% or whatever. I mean, okay, they had this crisis about the previous wrong bet of Zuckerberg on a VR and AR. So they were a little bit starting from a low point, but still, like if you compare the periods after that, they were growing so much faster. So also, I think market is recognizing that Microsoft is not doing a bad job there, but it is not giving it the same coverage as anywhere else. And that's also not the way that it's increasing on the stock market.
Okay, so let me ask you this last question.
Yep.
Where do you think it will go with
Yes.
Microsoft?
Yes. So we are not an investment advice podcast, so I put a disclaimer. But one thing which I'm curious, and I was thinking more and more, getting ready for this podcast, is, and probably I'm gonna bet some my own money on it. So I'm gonna have some skin in game. Now I'm not sure if this 28% share of OpenAI is already calculated into Microsoft price, because if you think about it, just purely mathematically, right? So I am quite sure that OpenAI, when it's going to ever go for the IPO, will be 1 trillion plus, for sure.
Yes.
Because already they are more than 500 billion. So by the time they go IPO, it's going to be close to 1 trillion. So almost 30% of that is 300 billion extra value, which you are not officially now owner of, because nobody knows who knows what and like what's the value in OpenAI share that you have now, or that the contract that you have with them now. But the moment you're going to be shareholder is going to be very obvious. It's 300 extra billion of a value, which all of a sudden, I think Microsoft would be like rightful to claim. So I suspect that when it comes to purely stock price, and again, this is not a investment advice, but I would assume that when market realizes that, oh, they actually own 28% of OpenAI, and OpenAI is probably $1 billion, it's going to help them to grow the market value a little bit. However, next earning calls with Satya Nadella is going to get a lot of questions about agentic, about model development and other things. And I would say unless the era of small devices come really quickly, which for them the fee level of the models would be helpful for, they're going to struggle. So small upswing and then probably a difficult times would be what I would expect.
Okay, I just wanted to show you this because we mentioned it before. It's a headline from Reuters.
Yeah.
Can you read it?
Yes. OpenAI says CEO Altman will not get a stake in newly restructured firm.
So I wasn't incorrect.
Well, let's see.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens with Sam Altman in the newly restructured OpenAI. We'll see what happens with Microsoft and its share. And you say you're putting your skin in the game, so I'm really curious what happens.
Yes, let's see. But all in all, I think Microsoft had not the best starting position because they were not a strong AI play before. Now they had a chance of a moment with ChatGPT where they could like ride a horse of OpenAI, but they somehow failed it. They fell off that horse, if I can use a metaphor. And now they are kind of scrambling and trying, but even not doing what the other players are doing to boost the AI. So I'm a little bit worried where they're going to benefit from the AI game, because so far, besides the stake in OpenAI, I don't see any other strong push or like boost in their value when it comes to AI and its applications.
And that's all for this episode. Thank you, Philip. Pleasure as always. You can find Mindset in your favorite podcast app. On YouTube, you can follow us on LinkedIn. And if you want more information, go to our website, mindsetpodcast.com. That's mindset spelled with AI. Thank you, and bye, Philip.
Bye-bye.